Alberta is nimble. It should be. It could be. It's a small province. Let's be humble. I mean, 3.8 million. We're not California. That's good. We're not going to be Silicon Valley. That's great. We can be whatever we want to be. We don't have an institutional structure that will bog us down. We don't have a history that has preconceived what we have to be. We have extraordinary institutions if they can become nimble and mobile. In all of the professions, if they're not afraid and defensive. We have young people that are thirsting to become the Libyans, the civil Libyans. They come to me and they ask, how can I move from the institutional mindset into one where the processes are what I play with? And I said, then stop thinking that knowledge per se has value. Discovery is great if you can get into the research space. But practicing discovery in a brand new environment is so phenomenally exciting. It's the building of communities, it's the building of something new and meaningful. That's where the excitement of tomorrow is. And Alberta's got the chance to be pioneers in all of this space. But we get caught up in this envy of Silicon Valley, or the envy of other places in the world, which when I go to visit them, I see more damn problems than they'll usually admit. I think we have to be humble that we're still in a beginning phase. And we got to get out of this thinking that we're going to have prosperity forever because we've got a 100-year supply of oil and gas. It's naive. We need diversification. We need people to be thinking about working someplace other than just in the energy industry. And it should be okay to do that and okay to say that. But I've talked when I was with KPMG and we wanted to build value-added practices, and I've talked to industry leaders in the province and they tell me, stop it. Well, that's not something that I readily respond to, but I listen real hard. Why do they want me to stop? And the answer is because the economy in Alberta is fixed. It has not been built by government. It is a byproduct of demand, not by supply. We don't move oil because it exists. We move oil because there's a demand for it. And there's a demand for it in the U.S. for raw oil, raw wheat, raw meat, raw fiber, raw carbon, in all forms. We do what the market wants. They want long-term contracts of secure sources of carbon. Wheat, meat, fiber, timber, oil, and gas. That's what we do. If we're going to do something different, and you're going to make them happy downstream. When Brian Evans, the president of Interprovincial Pipelines, now Enbridge, asked me when I was KPMG to develop a document called Quality Moments. It was a summary of all of the experiences that their customers have with their company to try and portray their rankings on everything from phone contact to accounting to the distribution of product. We needed an image with something beyond numbers, something beyond analytics, to try and portray what he was trying to tell his customer. And the image was the following. He had on a hard hat, engineering, and he stood with his hand, personal, on a valve, and in the background was a refinery in Chicago. And the phrase underneath it was, let this pipe never go dry. And that's what our industry is. And that's the promise that he makes them. And if we're going to do it differently, we're going to fight prosperity. But in order to do it differently, we have to do it differently, or we get the Dutch disease. We become so dependent on a single source of success that we sacrifice the future. And if something like fusion were to come along, which simply makes for an interesting dialogue, so I'm not proposing it, I'm not even forecasting it, but should some technology like that come along, we will live to regret a single value system. So we've got to think widely. We've got to use the brains for what God gave them to us for. We've got to think in diversity. We've got to think, while I may be in the Faculty of Medicine, I wonder what I could learn over in geology. Or what might I... We've got to stop living in common space and be prepared to be somewhat more brave in terms of our learning experiences. We've got to think interdisciplinary. We've got to stop putting the king of the castle as the guy who knows the most, and make sure the king of the castle has management understanding, that he can mobilize knowledge and inspire innovation.